Can America survive a full-scale invasion? In 250 years, no army has ever conquered the United States. Not one. The British tried, but failed. Japan bombed Hawaii and lost an empire. Every superpower since has looked at the map and realized the same thing. Invading America isn't war, it's suicide. But here's the question nobody ever asks. What if it actually happened? What if everything collapsed and America had to survive on its own? Could the US survive a full-scale invasion? Not on screens, but in reality. And what would that war actually look like? It almost never happens, but it has. The British did it in 1814. They burned Washington, D.C., the White House, the Capitol. The president ran. That's the only time in history a foreign army held the US Capitol. Later, in 1916, Pancho Villa's men raided New Mexico, killed Americans, then vanished back across the border. Lastly, in 1942, Japan took 2 small frozen islands in Alaska. When the US finally retook them, the terrain killed almost as many men as the enemy did. And that's it. No one has ever conquered the mainland, because America is a nightmare to invade. Look at the map. 2 oceans, the Atlantic and the Pacific. They're not just water, they're walls. The Pacific alone is 5,000 miles wide, a moving wall of storms, currents, and emptiness. Even superpowers choke on that distance. That's why Hitler never tried. That's why Japan only hit Hawaii. It's too far, too hard, too costly. During World War II, when the US tried the reverse, invading across the Pacific, it took 3 years, tens of thousands of ships, and entire floating cities of fuel. That's how impossible a trans-ocean invasion really is. Even modern militaries know the math. A single carrier group burns millions of gallons of fuel per week. Crossing 5,000 miles means weeks of exposure to satellites and subs. But say someone somehow made it. Beyond those oceans waits a land built like a fortress, not by generals, but by geology. Imagine an enemy fleet finally reaching the Pacific Northwest. They'd expect beaches, but they'd find cliffs. The Olympic Peninsula rises almost straight out of the ocean. No flat land, no easy landing zones. Storms slam the coast like artillery. Rain never stops. Some places get 12 feet a year. That's not weather, that's war. The coastline itself fights back. Sharp rock, hidden coves, shifting sandbars. That's why sailors called it the graveyard of the Pacific. Over 2,000 ships have vanished here, nearly 1 for every 3 miles of shore. Even today, the Columbia River Bar is so dangerous that pilots need a special license to cross it, and they still lose ships. One wrong swell, one gust too strong, gone. Behind that chaos lies another barrier, the coastal range. It's not tall, but it's close enough to the sea to trap clouds and crush dreams. Even the lighthouses, built to outlast centuries, have had to be rebuilt inland as the ocean eats the shore. So before invaders ever see a city, they'd be fighting rain, mud, and gravity. And beyond that, they'd meet a land that punishes armies long after the storm ends. Suppose they somehow land. Now comes the real enemy, the continent itself. Deserts, mountains, swamps, snow. Every mile different, every region hostile. The Rockies slice the West in half. The Mississippi floods its plains. The Appalachians twist the east into endless ridges. Each barrier splits armies and burns fuel. Even US convoys need weeks to cross in peace. In war, it'd be hopeless. The Great Plains look flat, but they're open exposure, nowhere to hide from drones or jets. The deserts kill engines with heat. The winters break them with ice. Nature doesn't just slow invaders, it starves them. No refuel points, no factories, no friendly locals. Every state line becomes another front, and that's before you count the 330 million people already living here, most of them armed. Here's something no invader wants to hear. America has more guns than people. 390 million firearms, 120 for every 100 citizens. That's not an army. That's 50 million potential militias. From Maine to Montana, from Texas to Alaska, every home could be a stronghold. There are 15 million licensed hunters, more than most nations' militaries. That's why the Japanese Admiral Yamamoto supposedly said, "We could never invade America." Behind every blade of grass, is a gun. Even if the US military fell back, the population wouldn't. They know their terrain. They stock ammo like winter food. It would become the largest